You mentioned Jadeveon Clowney and Myles Garrett. Joe Woods talked about how they make each other better.
I think when you look across and you see another guy that was the first overall pick, I think that's like unsaid competition. I think for those guys, it helps them compete. Who's going to get the most sacks? Who's going to make the most TFLs? So I think it's just kind of an unsaid thing that happens between those two guys in terms of the competition. And again, as I said earlier, it helps me defensively because of the offense can't key on one guy in there.
Yeah, it helps them defensively because you got two guys that nobody can block one-on-one.
Yeah, that also factors into it. I like Joe Woods with the whole they compete against each other. Because what it made me think about, you ever been to the gym and you see the big guy at your gym and he crosses paths with the big guy from another gym, and then like they just look at each other for a while. That's what Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney. They're both the big dude at the gym, and they just like, okay, well, let's see who can do more weight. And that's how somebody hits a PR that day. That is what is going on with that, right? They make each other better because of that, but I think they make each other better because their skill sets are so complementary. We think of Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney as, they're both these freakish athletes. They win the same way. They win in two completely different ways. Myles Garrett is bendy. Myles Garrett can bull rush, and Myles Garrett will reverse swim you to get to your inside shoulder. Jadeveon Clowney, as athletic as he is, he wins with his hands and he wins on the inside. This is why he doesn't have the great sack totals that people look for, because when you win on the inside, you tend to get to the quarterback less and you tend to flush them more because it's just a harder angle to get at. And that's why Myles does have these tremendous sack numbers. But nonetheless, they're still both very effective. And when you have a guy who can win inside and a guy with Myles Garrett, who's elite at winning outside, you could put those two next to each other because they're not going to open up a gigantic gap when they try to rush in their best way. They're going to be complementary of each other and be able to still have gap integrity. So that's why they're such a great pairing. Like, their play styles match up. Their athleticism is through the roof. I mean, Jadeveon Clowney, he don't run that 4.5 no more that he ran coming out of college, but he still runs like a 4.6, 4.7 at that weight. So he's not slow. If you get flushed by one, you're going to get caught by the other. And now you throw in somebody who's relatively athletic in that way, and Perion Winfrey. You got Alex right back there, who's at least really long. And you have a very athletic defensive line that really complements each other, man. Defensive line, I think Marcus Spears says this all the time, and I think it's true. Defensive line is like playing basketball. It doesn't matter if you have the 5 best defensive linemen of all time next to each other. You need to make sure they all fit, because if they don't all fit and work together, they're going to cause problems for the linebackers and safeties and everything else, because they could push holes wide open that defensive line. And that's what Myles and Clowney have that a lot of other tandems don't, is that they just fit well. And I think we don't talk about defensive line fits enough in football conversations, but this is definitely a very important factor in this.